I just feel like there was so much more I could have done in life if I wasn't always so tired thanks to the PCOS. If you can't actually get that diagnosis, you won't get the care.
So I'm still working through sort of like the confidence within myself and like feeling secure in my own femininity despite having facial hair and growing it quite rapidly.
Today we're talking about polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS. Sometimes it's called PCOS. And if you've got it, you can get irregular or no periods. You can have extra hair on your body or face. You can get acne, weight gain. There are loads of other symptoms too. And it is quite common. About 1 in 10 women of reproductive age have it. But as many as 70% of cases are undiagnosed. That's according to the WHO, the World Health Organization. And even when you do get a diagnosis, it can be a real struggle to find treatments that work. So there are lots that doctors still don't know about it, and plenty of myths online about it too. And one of the reasons that we are talking about this today is because the name PCOS has now officially been changed to PMOS, and that stands for polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. And the idea is that it will try to help people understand and diagnose it better. So today we're going to break down what this condition is, and will renaming it help doctors and the people who have it. I'm Hannah, and this is What in the World from the BBC World Service. Now we're going to hear from some people who have this condition. Shell, who lives in Florida, and Janef, who is here in the UK. Hey, welcome both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
It's great to have you, and it's really great to be able to speak to you about this. Thanks for joining us. So you have both been diagnosed with PCOS, now PMOS or PMOS.
Yes.
Yeah.
How does it affect you?
I saw the symptoms from a very young age, so some the ages of puberty, so 12, 13, that's when I first started getting the facial hair and noticing more of the physical outward symptoms, I call them. So it definitely made me question myself and like my femininity for a long time. So I'm still working through sort of like the confidence within myself and like feeling secure in my own femininity despite having facial hair and growing it quite rapidly. My biggest struggle has always been the weight, the bloating, and sort of how I view myself in terms of that as well. And now more than ever, I'm at a point where I'm sort of thinking about my future. So I do have worries around like fertility and what does that look like for me and sort of children and stuff like that.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's a really personal and difficult thing to talk about. We really, really appreciate you opening up. Shell, how has it affected you?
It basically drives most of my decisions. I just feel like there was so much more I could have done in life if I wasn't always so tired thanks to the PCOS just draining my energy in some way or another, right?
One of the big challenges is getting diagnosed. What was your experience, Shell, of getting a diagnosis?
So I've shown symptoms since I was about like 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. But when you're that young and you have these symptoms, and especially at the time, they just really didn't know very much about this condition. I got a lot of pushback, right? So they wouldn't really particularly give me that diagnosis. All they would give me is, here's some birth control, here's metformin for your insulin resistance, and that's it, right? So that went on for basically like 10 years. If you can't actually get that diagnosis, you won't get the care, like just flat out, especially here where I am in America. So very, very frustrating.
Very frustrating, very difficult, very long. Janef, what was your experience like of getting a diagnosis?
So my diagnosis came a lot later. It was something that I just personally was a bit taboo about, having the facial hair at a young age. And then over time, as things got worse and worse, it was like, okay, this is actually not normal. I am supposed to get my period every single month. So then I had gone to my GP. They put me through to get some scans and some blood tests.
Have you tried any of those treatments? Have you found anything that has worked for you?
Nothing's really worked for me.
Oh, I am a try it girly. I have tried everything. If you think that if it's available, I've tried it. For the irregular periods, I actually eventually went on an IUD. Personally, it has worked for me. But if anything, the problem with an IUD, of course, it's an IUD, right? It's going to stop any chances of pregnancy or anything like that. And I'm getting to the age that if I want to do anything, I would have to stop it, I believe, next year.
Now we're going to get some facts on the condition from Global Health reporter Dorcas Wangira, who is in Nairobi, Kenya. Hi, Dorcas.
Hi, Hannah. Great to be here
It's
again.
really great to speak to you again. You're always such a great person to speak to about these health topics. And to start off with, can you explain why some women get PCOS or PMOS, as it's now called?
There are some theories that it could be genetically predisposed, or if you've had women in your family having it, you could have it. So it is a hormonal disorder where you have higher androgen levels in the blood, which are male hormones, and you are a woman or a young girl, but it is not very well understood why women get it.
And what are the main symptoms? A lot of people talk about fertility issues with PCOS.
So it has a range of symptoms. So we can start with like the signs. For instance, you could have hair growing out of your chin or your belly. Some women have hirsutism, which is more facial hair than others. Then you have other signs. You have irregular periods, infrequent periods. Some women don't have their periods. You have irregular ovulation or abnormal ovulation, and which is the leading cause for infertility among women. But there are other signs. For instance, you can have skin tags. You have dark patches on your skin rather. You have pain. You have sleep apnea, not being able to sleep so well. We could go on because there's so many symptoms and signs that are involved, and that's why it's been very difficult to understand it.
So let's talk a little bit more about this name change now and some of the terms that come into it. There's metabolic, to do with the metabolism, endocrine, which is about creating and releasing hormones, and obviously our hormones are responsible for so many different bodily functions. And it's also been really difficult to diagnose it. Why is that? Why is it so hard to diagnose it in women?
Before, when the focus was just on the ovarian cysts, you would have to have an ultrasound to know if you have ovarian cysts. So a cyst is a sac-like tissue that is filled with fluid. But the symptoms that I have mentioned, some women have acne, other women will have their hair balding out. So many people do not understand it. That's why it would be hard to diagnose. Well, here in sub-Saharan Africa or in many African countries, period pain is normalized. And there was always this common myth that if you don't get your period, you would not get pregnant. So for some, they would feel the stigma surrounding it. Why am I not like other women? So you would not actually go to a healthcare center to get diagnosed. When the focus was on PCOS, you would rely on blood tests to check on androgen levels, or you would have to have an ultrasound. How accessible is this for women? So the lack of understanding, the lack of really not knowing what it is has been a barrier for many women and girls.
Is there a cure?
So we still cannot say for a fact that there is a cure, but we do know that there are some reversible symptoms now that we know that it's not just about ovarian cysts. But now we do understand that this is also a metabolic syndrome. It's also looking at your insulin resistance. So just a little bit about insulin resistance and why it is important. It helps your body to be able to process sugar in the blood. So people who have either their bodies do not use insulin well, what the pancreas does, I know it's a lot of biology, the pancreas is what produces insulin. So if your body is not able to use it, it keeps producing more insulin. So the insulin tells your ovary to produce more testosterone. So now we understand that it's not just about cysts, it's also about what insulin is telling your ovary to do. Some health experts are not saying that PMS is reversible, but you can manage the insulin resistance, which can help reverse some of the symptoms and signs that you are having.
A lot of people talk about diet when it comes to PMOS. How important is diet? Can it be treated with dietary supplements or with different types of low carb, high fat, keto diets?
It's always important to consult your dietitian or your GP because it doesn't affect everyone the same way. One person would cut out carbs, one other person would not. You may be thinking it's diet, but it's also the sleep apnea. This condition comes with a lot of stress, anxiety, and depression. When you're constantly thinking about why is my body different from other women and girls, that would even be a bigger issue than what you're actually eating. So it's always the gold standard to consult your GP and not to diagnose yourself or to choose for yourself what to have.
Why do doctors think it is so important to rename this condition from PCOS, PCOS to PMOS?
So it is important because what's in a name? It's not just the name, because PMOS is quite a mouthful, isn't it? It's the understanding. If you want to tell people understand a condition, ask how many people know it in their local language. So that awareness is also very important.
Dorcas, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It has taken more than a decade to get the name change to PMOS. And we're going to hear now from Professor Helena Teede, who led the name changing initiative.
It has been stuck in a historical, inaccurate frame for way too long. So when it was originally discovered, if you like, or understood, at surgery, a gynecologist or two gynecologists noted that the surface of the ovaries were lumpy, which they incorrectly thought were abnormal cysts, and they're actually not. And so the cyst label was wrong. The fact that it's labelled as primarily an ovarian disorder is also wrong. So the name had to change. What it also comes along with is a code change in the name with WHO, but more importantly, a reclassification of this condition out of an ovary disorder. And by changing that classification, we can move out of the paralysis that has been happening for decades, where almost no money in research goes into a condition that affects so many women. There has never been adequate research on the broader features of this condition. So it's not just a name, it's the recategorization, moving into a scenario where we can get more research funding, develop more treatments, get more evidence, have better, broader education, and have better care.
Let's hear more now from Janef and Shell, who you heard earlier.
I think it would be nice to sort of see hope in it. I think I'm still yet to see someone be open with their journey and sort of shed light on, like, this is something that I'm going through. Yes, it's not easy, but there is hope in this.
What about the name change to PMOS? Does that give you hope?
A name change is good, but full-on change of how it's viewed, and for it to be seen by us patients that they're changing the way things are viewed, and also a change in how we can get the solutions to our problems. That's more what I'd like to see. But baby steps.
At least in the US, it's so important because a lot of the way insurance and medical is handled is through medical coding. So let's say, for example, PCOS is like coded as a ovarian, like a reproductive issue, right? So if you bring anything outside of reproductive issue, they're now not going to cover it anymore, right? But PMOS, if they're considering it metabolic and hormonal, it'll be just a way to particularly shift the narrative so that it's not so reproductive and it's like everything in your body's affected. So I'm really hopeful for the way it'll affect those in America. I've never had the chance to talk to anybody that also grows a beard, like in person. You know, when the beard's growing and it's itchy, like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm so glad I'm not crazy.
That's good. Because I have brothers, and like my little brother, he's got a full grown beard, and we're both just there, like this.
Bless you. Shell, Janef, I'm so grateful to have you on this call. So thank you so much for speaking to us today.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us.
So PCOS, PMOS is really common and it affects people in very different ways. And if it's something that you have been experiencing, then we would love to hear from you. You can leave us a comment. You can also get in touch with us on WhatsApp or on Instagram at BBC What in the World. And I want to just shout out some of the comments that you guys have been leaving us on our episode about call centres. We looked at what it's like working in a call centre. There are thousands of students in places like Latin America who are answering our calls and dealing with our daily frustrations. I mean, it can't be easy speaking to hundreds of angry customers every day. So we got this one from John, who had experience himself of working in a call centre. He said that they wanted you to complete calls in 3 to 4 minutes. All they cared about was you taking 100 to 130 calls a day. He said it was the worst job I ever had in my life. Many customers were in tears because we couldn't fix their problems. And we also got this from Junior on Instagram. Big shout out to Junior. He has been listening from the start. He said that he worked in a call centre for about 3 years while he was at uni. It paid fairly well at the time and the schedules were very flexible. He worked over the phone as an interpreter for American companies across different industries, and it was a great opportunity to improve his English. I wouldn't do it again, though, he said, as it was extremely stressful and I've got a job that pays a lot better now. But at the time, the experience I gained and the money I made was definitely worth it. So please do keep your comments coming in. And for now, that is it from me. I'm Hannah. This is What in the World from the BBC World Service, and we'll see you next time.